I must say, I thought when there was a delay, I thought he'd basically listened to everything and he wasn't going to do it. But in the end, he did it, which was quite a strange decision.
Tough to turn it down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that look, I'm a believe in real politic. If it's all right having morals and values, and everybody has morals and values, and I'm not decrying anybody's that are whiter than white and much greater than mine have ever been, but there is also a counter argument that everybody's got a price, and everybody has a lot of people's morals have a price. The thing is, I'm disappointed most with Jordan Henderson is he's still very active in the England squad, very well respected member of the squad and the team. And I think there are now questions for the Football Association because he's come out on several fronts and spoke. I mean, I'll just paraphrase what Cop Outs, which is one of the LGBTQ plus groups that support Liverpool, and they've effectively called him out and said, well, your allyship was great until a point whereby it has effectively been bought. And look, none of us have been particularly had that moral dilemma thrown at us where somebody says, I'm going to keep throwing money at you until you change your mind. But effectively, that's what's happened. And so from my perspective, I don't know what his role in terms as an ambassador for those issues can continue. I don't think he can, if we're being perfectly honest. And I think that we may well, if he's in the England squad for the Euros that England will qualify to get for, that we'll perhaps see a less prominent role for him if he gets in the squad at all, because I just think it looks awkward if somebody comes out of their own volition and says, I'm going to embrace these topics and I'm going to be a spokesperson for these topics. That's well and good, but you then have to be called out if somebody is paying you between 350 and 700,000 pounds a week and you go to somewhere like Saudi Arabia, whether we like it or not, that does still have very draconian laws about being gay in that particular country.
Yeah, it's going to be from a football point of view. I'm quite fascinated to know what it's going to be like, because this is a bit like what happened in China, except there's even more money involved. And these teams have a history over there, but don't really mean much to people in Europe. So it's going to be interesting to see whether people follow the Saudi League and the standard.
Yeah, and I think that, you only have to look at George Mendes. Wherever you want to see the next sort of great thing crop up in football, just follow where George Mendes goes, because 2/3 of his clients have ended up in the Saudi League, a lot of the Portuguese guys. I think that what the major difference is that China, of course, they got to a position where the Chinese government said, we want you to spend more money in China. We don't want to give you these huge contracts out to Europeans and South Americans. And going and buying football clubs. So there was a proper reverse ferret on that one. I can see the Saudi League becoming, in the next 10, 15 years, the 5th or 6th biggest league in the world. The problem will be is getting peak Haaland, peak Mbappe over there. I don't think that will happen for another couple of generations. They didn't manage to do it in China. They didn't manage to do it in the MLS. They haven't managed to do it in the J League or the Australian League when they started their leagues. So I think that, look, if somebody comes along and offers Erling Haaland £5 million a week, he'll probably go.
Yeah.
And the Saudis have that kind of money. But if you go to the Saudi League that is not yet a competitive league and doesn't have the credibility of the Champions League or the Premier League, then effectively as a youngster, you're kissing your career goodbye. And a lot of people, a lot of fans, they can understand people going to places for money, but they can't understand going to places for money where it's not particularly going to be competitive. And I don't think the Saudi League will be that for still a while to come.
Now, I've listened to enough football podcasts about footballers talking honestly and spoken to enough footballers to know that footballers play for money. They don't necessarily love the game.
And
they don't love exactly. And I'm not judging it. I'm not judging it. It's their job. It's a footballer's job, and they do it for as much money as they possibly can.
And I think that there is the argument that it's a career that you're pretty much done by 35 or thereabouts. But this is part of what sport washing is that countries that have had very negative reputations but are very cash rich are changing the image, not necessarily of us, the sort of older generation, if you like, we have very fixed views in our head of geopolitics, because we've seen how a lot of these places have gone from nothing to huge megalopolises in 20, 30, 40 years. But it's for the next generation. And to be perfectly honest, if Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe go to Saudi, or they both go at the same time, the 20-somethings now aren't really going to, or are they going to dig deeper and look under the hood at some of the things that have happened in Saudi over the last 20, 30 years? Saudi, UAE, some other countries as well are hoping not. But footballers will go and play for money. I mean, it's that classic dilemma. I used to play it on a team bus, actually, and you'd say to players, and I'd ask the question, would you play for Man United for £1 a week, or would you play for Orient for £1 million a week? And the answer came back Orient pretty much 9 times out of 10.
Definitely.
And that is what people have to understand. When people play for your club, they'll kiss the badge, they say the club is great and they love it.
Yeah.
But reality dictates that they might have 5 or 6 clubs in their career. Yes, they might come back and be a club ambassador, and they might have a genuine affection for your club. But these people play for your football club for money. That's the primary driver for them being there.
Players only love you when they're playing, to quote Fleetwood Mac. I just one more point on that. I think it'd be very interesting if they got involved in the women's game, if they set up a women's league. Then
they should. They absolutely should.
But then it would be a very interesting situation, wouldn't it?
Well, that's it.
Because then you're in a position where you are actively changing the country from the inside out. So if Jordan Henderson spoke up and said, I've come here and signed for this football club, not just to be a footballer, but I think I'm going to get in conversations with the ruling classes in Saudi Arabia and develop the women's game a lot more. Women's rights is at the forefront, because that's what I've argued for at home. Then it works.
Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.